Greetings everyone and welcome to the United Hotspot. It's the night show here on the United Hotspot. My name is Webb. It's a very beautiful day to be a Manchester United supporter because for the first time we've heard from the man who we believe is going to steer this ship up as it has been sinking for way too long. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has given a lengthy interview speaking about almost everything that's important to know about what exactly he's going to do with this club and what the future should hold. You are certainly right in time for this. We're going to talk in depth about it. For me, the most important talk and what I wanted to hear most was his opinion about Mason Greenwood and his future. He gave a very mature statement about him. He spoke about Eric Ten Hag. He spoke about the stadium, Old Trafford, and whether or not he will destroy it and build another or just refurbish the existing facility. He spoke about the whole direction of where the club is headed. A lot of things Sir Jim spoke about, and obviously for me it's a pleasure that we are here and I'm alive to see this new Man United under the stewardship of a man that I'm beginning to believe in so much. To be honest, I'm beginning to believe so much in what he's certainly set to do for Manchester United. First of all, he made it clear that this for him is not a financial investment. This was for him he makes enough money in petroleum and oil. And I spoke about this before. If you've been watching me, I've been telling you I never thought at 1 minute that for a person worth 30 billion pounds, investing 1.5 billion of that in Man United is for him to bring returns and make money. I think he makes way too much money in petroleum and oil. But as a fan, a childhood fan of Manchester United, for him, it's about seeing this club back, and that's the satisfaction, to be happy, because we all know how much joy football and sport at large brings to us, all of us, and that's why you're here with me right in time to talk about this club. But the big one about Mason Greenwood is where I'll start. Sir Jim dropped a very good statement about Mason Greenwood, and I'm going to just talk about that at length. And let me just read it for you. This is what he said, and I've been telling you he has always been open to the idea of Mason Greenwood returning. So he said, Greenwood is a Manchester United footballer and we are in charge of football. Now that's a big statement, a statement of authority, a statement of arrival and intent and affirmation and confirmation, whatever you want to call it. So he says he is a Manchester United footballer and we are in charge of football. So the answer is yes, we have to make decisions. It is quite clear we have to make a decision. There is no decision that's been made. The process will be understand the facts, not the hype, and then try to come to a fair decision on the basis of values, which is basically is he a good guy or not? And answer could he play sincerely? And answer, could he play sincerely for Manchester United well? And would it be comfortable with it? Would the fans be comfortable with it? Now, those are the questions to answer before a proper decision is made on his return. That's according to Sir Jim. Goes on to say we need to look at facts, judge fairly, and take into consideration what the values of the club are, then come out with a decision. But he also went and spoke and said that, you know, these are young footballers. We need to consider that these are young players who did not grow up with so much. They get a lot of money. Certainly, they have not been guided well. I love the fact that he spoke like a parent. He was speaking my mind. And for me, that is the only thing I've wanted to see and hear from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Even if the ultimate decision, and by the way, it's possible that the club might want him to return, but for him, personally, he would say, you know what, with the love I'm getting in Spain, I would rather not come back into the mess of a few Man United supporters or racists or whichever hypocrites, whichever reason, who would not want me back. But for me, just the fact that the man in charge of football is saying, look, this is a young boy, my exact thoughts for the longest time. This is a young boy who has probably not grown up with so much. He earns a lot of money. He's certainly prone to making mistakes. Young boys keep making mistakes here and there, now and then. But for him, he doesn't care about the money. He's going to make decisions basing on footballing reasons, but also he will be as humane as he can be when it comes to Greenwood. Now, if they decide, and if perhaps even Greenwood decides that he doesn't want to stay, we've had reports before suggesting that the price tag that was set for Greenwood was 34 million pounds. For me, again, I would be here every day to bash that, because that would be disrespectful for the player that Greenwood is. He deserves to be sold for the right price. But the first thing first, Sir Jim is open to the idea, extremely open to the idea of Mason Greenwood returning. So he goes ahead to speak about, and guys, you can give me your 2 cents on that. I saw someone, posting, and maybe I can post the same question and ask you the same question, inquiring between Mason Greenwood, Amad Diallo, and Jadon Sancho, who should stay at Manchester United in the summer with the whole new process, the Sir Jim that's going on? Who should we keep? Greenwood returning, keep Amad Diallo and Jadon Sancho, because they are all wingers. Who would you think is the best to stay or be at Manchester United? You can give your opinion on that as we do go on with the show. Drop that in the comment section. You can only comment if you're a subscriber, so make sure you do if you haven't. But also, guys, smash that like button if you do enjoy the conversation. Felix Kamwengo, I would like Greenwood to return to Manchester United. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Felix. I think I'm seeing you for the first time. Welcome to the United Hotspot. We are here every day at exactly this time, and we get details of what's going on. Today has been so busy, by the way. There's been quite a lot of news concerning Casemiro and how he's open to leaving in the summer. Luke Shaw and his injury that is going to be seeing him out for the rest of the season, most probably. There's been, of course, talk about this Sir Jim situation. A lot has been going on. We'll look at it as we also build up to the upcoming game at home as we return back home against Fulham. So let me go back to Sir Jim because he has been the man in the house today. So he was asked about, and he made a good statement about how he would extremely happy to knock Man City and Liverpool off their patch, which I love to see. And he was asked whether the financial struggles that the legal struggles that Man City are having to endure now would help his cause. And he said, I wouldn't wish that for them. What I would wish is for us to beat them on the pitch, which I love to see. That's the mentality and the attitude we want to see. We don't want to get these victories easy. We want to work for them. We don't buy things around. We don't want to wish bad for Man City. We want to beat the biggest competition we can beat to take our place up as the biggest club in the world, like he said it himself. People have been saying, I'm just too excited about Man United. That's why I called it the biggest club in the world. But Sir Jim also, as a fan, obviously, you would understand the bias. He also feels the same, that United is the biggest club in the world. So he says it should be up there. And he's going to work to that. Can't put a timeline to it, but he said next season maybe might be a bit soon. I mean, even Man City took time. Pep Guardiola took age to build the Man City we are seeing. But he says maybe in 3 years they can judge us. I told you he is not a person who wants to take so long to get things done, but also he will be realistic about things. But another positive he said he can see from what he's inheriting is in the past 3 seasons, I think from Ole, under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we've been seeing a constant sort of rise in our progress as Man United. There's been a bit of a rise, I think, unlike the years before that. So that's a good place to start from. And asked about the manager, Erik ten Hag, Sir Jim says, I mean, he cannot just go and attack the manager, talk about the manager now. But the reality is, if you look at post-Sir Alex Ferguson, we've tried, Man United has tried to get some of the best managers in the world, and it hasn't worked. I love that he speaks with knowledge and understanding of football. That it hasn't worked, so probably it's not the manager, but the structure. And he also clearly said the things he saw around the structure that he inherited was not right. So what he's first going to try to do, and that's what they are doing with bringing in Dan Ashworth and stuff, and he showed his intent and resolve to making sure that it happens. They seem to be sold that Dan Ashworth is the guy to put things right in terms of the structure, but also with the director of football, which is the most important bit of the whole jigsaw. But he says the structure is what he wants to put right so that any manager can come and perform in that structure. However, he said we are not going to be all over the place like it has been with these Glazers. So you're going from Louis van Gaal, who Wayne Rooney said it was sad to see him leave Manchester United. But you go from Louis van Gaal playing a different football. You have Jose Mourinho. You have all these managers we had playing different football. He says as a club you're supposed to get an identity you want, believe in your identity, and make sure you stick to it. So expect Sir Jim Ratcliffe to bring us an identity that he's going to believe in and he will try to stick to. So he will only try to find managers and players to fit into that identity. So whether Erik ten Hag will be the man for that identity will all depend on what the identity is. So right now, the job of Erik ten Hag we might not know yet, but the thing is, there must be an identity first before we think about which coach is going to execute it. Very important stuff there from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I'll go on and talk about the stadium. He was asked about the stadium situation at Manchester United and whether or not it's true that he's going to break it. And everything I'm telling you now, these are stories we have. And if you got back in the history of our videos here, we've spoken about all these things. I think I've tried to research and give you all these details, these stories. So he said there are two options they are discussing now when it comes to the stadium. He says there is one to build a whole new facility, because he says whereas Old Trafford is the second biggest stadium with 75,000 seater, second biggest in the UK after Wembley, and the biggest in the Premier League. He says it's not up to the standard of Manchester United. It's maybe about 20 years back. It's 20 years behind the times. And he's saying Man United has got to represent what it is as, and that's why I said it's the biggest, without maybe not looking past that, it's the biggest club in the world. So he says we need to have a stadium that resonates with our status as a club. So he says they're looking at options whether to refurbish the existing facility or build a completely new one. And you'll have to hear it from a man who has got his billions, and it clearly shows he's willing to invest. In fact, it is said already they had decided to build a new facility, and they are looking for partners to come and work with them to be able to build this. Of course, there are so many partners out there who would be interested to be a part of the story of the new Man United facility, the new Old Trafford. I think in and outside the UK, if Sir Jim went out there and made a public announcement that if you're willing, you are a big company out there and you'd want to have your name scribbled on the new Old Trafford, I think they would get millions and millions of companies globally, outside the UK, in Asia, perhaps even in Africa, that would want to have their name on the new Old Trafford. So he's saying they're looking at all those possibilities and they will explore them. So that's a beautiful thing to hear. He's, however, says, I mean, the past 11 games, I think the past couple of games, there has been a lot of improvement in terms of the football they play, but he admits we are way off the pace when it comes to the teams we are competing with. Most importantly, that's Liverpool and Manchester City. And of course, when it comes to Europe, it's Real Madrid mainly that we are competing with. Beautiful stuff there from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. The United Hotspot is where you are. I hope you've subscribed, guys, because this talk is real and deep. But let me pause Sir Jim's talk for a bit there and talk a bit about the football, because we've got an upcoming game. And Sir Jim himself said the most important thing for United is the football on the pitch. The fans want to see the club winning, performing, and winning games of football. Now, let's talk about the players, because it's the players who win football matches, don't they? So, Luke Shaw has had a recurrence of a leg injury that he thought he had dealt off, and it will see him most likely out for the rest of the season, meaning he could miss the Euros as well. Remember, the Euros are going to take place in June, and Luke Shaw has been, of course, one of the guys Gareth Southgate would obviously be planning for as the left back. But I think at the country's level, I think without if Gareth Southgate is open-minded, he can get options to replace Luke Shaw in left back. For Man United is where the issues are, because our backup Tyrell Malacia is also not fit. He's injured. He had a surgery in his leg. The recovery or rehabilitation went bad even when it looked at one point that he was returning. So he was also back and out. We don't know until when, but he's been showing, posting videos of himself in the gym and stuff. But Reguilon was sent back. People thought that was a bad decision, but he's not there. So we have to deal with Victor Lindelof or Amrabat playing in left back, or the manager might be creative and resorts to a back three, because we played a back three before. So we play with without a left back. So we play with wing backs instead. So again, those are all things for the manager to decide. But yeah, Luke Shaw, it's sad, but it's out. But it seems things are not good for him, because Sir Jim and his Ineos team right now are looking at contracts for players and scrutinizing and cleaning. He said, actually, if I'm to refer to his interview today, he said that if you solving the Man United problem will not be just about coming up and waking up and quickly firing and hiring people. One is at Old Trafford. At Carrington, he said he visited it and he said it is actually quite fair. Okay, there is not so much work that can be done about Carrington. He seems to suggest that Carrington is okay, that maybe there can be a little polishing, a few things can be improved. Maybe the gym facility maybe can be improved, which I think is so cheap and easy. But he says the bigger work to do is at Old Trafford. That's where most of the work is, but also the structure around the manager. That's where the biggest work is. Create a culture and an identity for the club. The manager was struggling for so long with a lot of work. So which is a good thing to see. So it looks like I loved the confidence he has got in his team, but also in the processes he's willing to put in place. He sort of has an utmost belief in whatever he's going to do, that it's going to work. And for me, that's what you love, because I mean, you want to support with confidence. I mean, if your leader doesn't look confident in what they're doing, if the person you're following doesn't look confident in what they're doing, I think it's always going to be difficult for you followers to follow, because I mean, what are you following if your leader isn't sure of where they're taking you? So I think that what that interview showed me is that Sir Jim is extremely sure of where he's going, what he wants to do to get there, how long perhaps it would get there. He might not say. He was asked whether it's going to be next season, and he said, of course, that would be wishful thinking. But the reality is, he is not here to take ages to solve problems, because he knows the ultimate goal is to make fans like himself happy about Man United performing to the levels where it is supposed or is expected to perform. Beautiful stuff there to listen to from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So I think if you've had any disquiets about him and what he's here to do, I think that interview will sort of open your eyes and endear you more to him and what he wants to do. Going back to the football, guys, I told you I'll be splaying between his statements, Sir Jim reflecting and giving my opinions about him, but also going back to the football, because we've got a game coming and the summer transfer window to think about. Alfred Sendwe, this man seems serious. I pray he works with Eric Ten Hag and develops this club. Player power must be dealt with. Players make the club to sack coaches. Yes, beautiful. Now that's if there is no culture. That's if there is no culture. And these days that happens because the structure changed in football. Football has changed. Before the manager, there is no way a player would make a manager be sacked. There is no way a player was going to make Sir Alex Ferguson sacked. There is no way a player at Chelsea was going to make Jose Mourinho sacked, because the managers had power, the authority. They were the final man. However much everyone else liked you, if the manager didn't, you wouldn't play. So players would play for the manager by force. If you want your job, you have to play for the manager. Things have changed now that you've got to keep a structure that's going to protect the manager. So I agree 100%, Alfred Sendo, with you that this man has got to ensure that they tame these players who seem to have so much power today, even when they're earning so much money for doing absolutely nothing. Always it's going to end up with the manager, and unfortunately, the managers are helpless. But if you put a right structure around the manager, then the players are going to be protected. You can see that at Liverpool. There's a good structure around Liverpool. So that will protect the manager. So the structure is very important, and that's why it's top of the agenda for Sir Jim and his Ineos team. Alfred, welcome aboard. Thank you so much. Now, and of course, to all the other 19 guys who are watching live, I see you. Thank you so much from wherever you are. Now, away from that, going back to the football. So I told you a story earlier today about Casemiro and how Casemiro has made it clear that he's open to the idea of leaving in the summer and going. Now, Sir James was asked about the summer transfer and stuff, and he said, you see, you cannot start talking about the summer. And guys, everything Sir Jim was saying, I've said here. I mean, let me give myself the flowers. He was saying, before you think about summer and bring in players, it's not about just spending money lavishly. If I'm to use his words, it's not about just spending money lavishly. It's about having a proper plan on which you're basing on to spend. Because the money has been there and it has been spent, but there was no spending plan. That's why it did not yield anything. Results do not come by just spending money lavishly. You've got to have a meticulous plan and you stick to it. So going back to the summer, Casemiro opened to the idea of leaving in the summer because he admits perhaps he's not good enough. And talks have been going. They're ongoing already with Omar Berrada and the team and co. Behind the scenes to try and understand what exactly is going to be the plan for these players in the summer. Now, the good news when it comes to Casemiro is that, first of all, he's open-minded and understands that the club is in a situation where it needs money and he can fetch us some money. And in Saudi, that money can come because just last summer, a club in Saudi, believed to be Al Nassr, was interested in signing Casemiro for 70 million euros. That's almost the same amount we bought him for from Real Madrid in the summer of 2022. So it shows you that perhaps that would be good business. Imagine if we got that 70, that's about 60 million quid for Casemiro. We sold Marcus Rashford already. Sir Jim would have somewhere to start. So, but also he spoke about the financial fair play and policies and what have you, and how they have sort of changed the game today. And you've got to be so smart and creative in how you manage your team if you're going to beat the financial fair play and be able to perform, which I thought was beautiful. Yeah, he seems to have a proper understanding of football to the detail. Whereas he has got his men who do the work, he understands at the top, the man at the top, he understands football to the bone, which for me is beautiful to see. He spoke about Sir Alex Ferguson too, and I'll tell you what he said after reading Alfred Sendway's message, saying that's leadership from Casemiro. He's interested in seeing the club grow. He must help Kobe before he could leave. Exactly. And that's what he's doing. When he speaks about Kobe today, he's clear. He says Kobe Mainu is going to be a future for a star for the generation and for the next 10 years or so at Man United. I think even more than that. And for me, that's good. What he can do now is be as exemplary as he can be to these young players, which he's doing. There's a lot for Kobe. I think if there's one mentor Kobe needed as he started his time at Man United, I think it has always been a player like Casemiro, who was probably the best player a few years ago, the best player in that position, consistently for a long time. By the way, at Real Madrid, when he was playing there, when they were sweeping titles, he was the best player in that position. He might be a bit different because he's not a swift feet like Kobe, but in terms of technicalities, experience, game reading and stuff, the other attributes you need to execute that position well, I think he's the perfect player for that. And for us, the blessing is with Kobe and how Erik ten Hag wants to play. You need to have a very good number 6, a confident number 6 on the ball if you're going to execute the way Erik ten Hag wants to play, because how we play is we invite the pressure. So the goalkeeper starts the ball and invites the pressure. So usually you want to start it either with the fullbacks, with the number 2 or the number 3, but usually they are not as comfortable with the ball. So you need to have a good number 6 who can play well with their facing his goal. So because when you pass the ball to Kobe, and you've seen it several times, Andrew Onana do it. That's why Andrew Onana understands how Erik ten Hag wants to play. So you've seen several times Andrew Onana passing the ball to the person at number 6, either Casemiro or Kobe. So what that does is it invites the opposing attackers and midfielders and creates space in the middle. So you pass the ball to the number 6. If they don't panic, they know what to do, either stick with it or pass it back. But when you pass it to him, they are inviting about 2 or 3 players behind them, meaning where these 3 players are coming from, there is space. So just play a quick 1-2 back to the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper finds one of the fullbacks. There will be space in the middle here to exploit. So that's a bit of how this pressing thing works, how Erik ten Hag wants to play. So in Kobe, we've got the perfect player to execute that, because he's even more comfortable on the ball than Casemiro has ever been. So beautiful stuff. Angelu David, welcome aboard. Thank you. Good to have you here. Also support Greenwood to be returned and let Anthony be sold and Mount. Well, beautiful stuff there. You support Greenwood to return. So it's a beautiful thing that the man himself is open. He's being a parent. He's saying we've got to be reasonable when it comes to Greenwood's situation. He's saying we have got to listen, to understand, and based on facts, not hype. By hype, he means me coming here and shouting, but me, I don't shout. I come and speak with reason about why, and I give my reasons why Greenwood needs to return. But certain people, just the most importantly, those who do not want him back, come and speak with hype. Sir Jim is saying it's not going to be about hype for him. It's his decision to make. He emphasizes that is my decision to make. I've not yet made it, but we are going to study, get to understand the facts. And by doing so, certainly we'll have to talk to Greenwood probably and understand and see, does he want to play? Would it be okay? Would it be comfortable? Do we need him? But all that will come after he has put in place the right structure for the manager, for the team to go going forward, because he says he has got to have an identity and he will stick to it. He won't be all over the place, which has been lacking at Manchester United. Now, going back again to the players, I spoke about Luke Shaw's injury. I spoke about Casemiro and how Al Nassr, that team is believed to be Al Nassr, by the way, and they're still interested in him. And in the summer, trust me, Casemiro will go. So I think already for me, if we have Casemiro in, if we have that 70 million, even if it's less, even if it's about 45 or 50 million pounds from whichever club, I think it's a good base for us to start on. It's a very good base for us to start on. If we then decide to sell Greenwood, which I wouldn't want, but if we decided to, I think we can sell him for the right fee. And Barcelona and Atletico are already interested, but they can pay better money than 34 million pounds. I don't think, first of all, if ever he had a buyout clause in his contract, it would be 34 million pounds. I don't think so. So I think we can get the most we can get out of Greenwood, and it can't be 34 million pounds. It can't be. Absolutely not. And get to David, I agree with you that Anthony has got to go. Question would be is where would Anthony go? Who would take Anthony? He has got a long contract. He's earning 200,000 pounds per week. He has got a long contract. I think that goes on up to 20. I think he signed 4 or 5 years when he joined. So his contract perhaps I think goes on up to 2027. He has got a long contract, which usually it's difficult to undo. But like I've been saying, there is a new guy in charge of football, and the reason why negotiations took a year or so was because they were trying to get to the roots of every problem at the club. And before Sir Jim came out and said, okay, this is the problem I can solve, he had first scrutinized everything. And these Anthony's and poor signings, I think, have been, I think, the gist of the problem. I mean, we've been signing all the wrong players with all the wrong inspiration, through poor negotiation and all that. So I think that he has known for the longest time. So I think Anthony, there could be a solution for Anthony. Either terminate his contract if they have to, or send him out on loan until his contract runs out, and then there will be a solution. So I don't think Anthony will survive this. I think Anthony will go. I think he will go. If Sir Jim is really a fan of the club, like he says, Anthony must go. No fan of the club would keep Anthony if it's their decision to make, really. I don't think any fan of Man United would keep Anthony if it is their decision to make for him to stay or leave. There is no way. So, yeah, Angedu David, I agree with you. I agree with you 100% on that. So, yeah, we've got a game coming, guys. We've got Fulham coming. Never an easy team. They're coming to Old Trafford. We are back home. And I think we've had a good inspiration in terms of the energy that has come with the presence of Sergio Marquinhos. Now that is confirmed again, our first game is at OT after the official confirmation. There is no more speculation and talk and stuff. There is now work. It's time now. He said himself, we are accelerating the process that has been going on in silence. So I think it should be a good game against Fulham. I hope, by good now, at least we've learned that good for United is winning. It cannot be performances, because clearly the performances don't come that good, do they? They don't. But the most important thing is we win games of football now, because as we push for top 4, I think win points are what we need. How we get them might not exactly matter. I think that is for us who are sentimental and saying we want this club to improve. I think honestly, the reason we would want us to win games more differently, besides the pressure that comes with winning the way we win now, I think the reason most of us would want us to improve is for Erik ten Hag. It's us feeling like, honestly, even if we won games but we kept winning them the way we did against Luton, Sir Jim would have an easy decision to make on Erik ten Hag, wouldn't he? At the end of the summer, at the end of the season, I think we would have a quick and easy decision to make on Erik ten Hag. If we continued just gambling into wins like this, it would be so easy for him to say, you know what, yes, we've won, but come on, we need an identity. So Erik ten Hag, I don't know whether he still can show an identity between now and the end of the season, but there seems to be a good understanding and respect from Ineos and towards Erik ten Hag. But reading between the lines and the statements he made when he was asked about Ten Hag and the coach and everything, the answer he gave, and just reading his face, I don't think Ten Hag has a job after at Man United. Even if we won the title, I don't think Erik ten Hag is in the long-term plan of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because he has got the short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Obviously, that's the basic of management. He has all that. But from how I read his facial expressions, body language, his tone, choice of words, and how he approached the question, I don't think he's so excited or moved by Erik ten Hag. He says he has met Sir Alex Ferguson like 3 times. There is some point where he was his dream dinner. guest, at some point he inquires a lot from Sir Alex Ferguson. I think again, and people don't like it, but Sir Jim seems to have a big respect for him, like anyone. I think Sir Jim's face and what he was saying, he doesn't seem so moved by him. Namuteri, Rita. But I think the poor performance of players we always recruit has been within the club because good players have come and failed, putting aside Anthony. Yeah, that's the reality. Good players have come and failed because when the structure is not good, there is no structure under which to play. It's difficult to perform. But with Anthony, I don't think Anthony's failure to perform is down to the structure. I think it is down to him. Because let me give you an example. Angel Di Maria, when he joined Manchester United, was not yet done. He still went on and played at the topmost level for quite some time, PSG and what. But whereas Di Maria failed, he was not poor on the ball. There was never a time where we felt Di Maria he looked so bad, like as bad as Anthony looks. The thing with Anthony is when the ball is on Anthony's feet, he plays like he's a 12-year-old kid trying to learn how to dribble, to do step overs. It cannot be that it's the structure failing him. With Di Maria, you would see that he still has it, but things somehow were not working for him. You can say the same about Alexis Sanchez. You can say the same about Morgan Schneiderlin. You can say the same about I don't know. And perhaps maybe I'll drop a video one of these days showing the worst performers, the biggest underachievers post Sir Alex Ferguson. Well, that list I think would still have Memphis Depay in it. You see, with Anthony, his legs seem to have frozen at Manchester United, that he cannot do anything on the ball to show you that there is hope that in a better structure, this guy can free himself and perform. You struggle to see that thing to lean on, to say, you know what, which other player has struggled? Jadon Sancho, for example, guys. Jadon Sancho has struggled with the few games, the chances he got. But even when Sancho was on the pitch, you would see that the talent is still there. The flair can still be there. You would see something in him that you think could work with a better environment, a better structure. Anthony Dos Santos is completely off. He has no football. He gets that ball and does his little funny thing that even in P2 football, your coach would scream at you for doing that. There is nothing to hope that Anthony Dos Santos can do good. He needs to free him. So I think he needs to restart. And you see, you can't restart at Man United because the pressure at Man United is different. So Anthony is completely off in his head. He's playing in his head that maybe the things he could do. He could, here at Brazil, he a little bit tries, but even at Brazil, it has gone. His confidence has gone completely. So for me, for Anthony, he needs a restart. The beauty is he's young. I think he's only 23, not even 24. Huh? He's not, there's no flair, there's nothing. He's too blunt, he has no ideas, his shot is not accurate, he has no power in his shot, his decision making is wrong, his step overs do not look silky and sweet. There is nothing about Anthony that gives you that belief, honestly, Namutebi. I don't see it. And for me, for Anthony, I can say Memphis Depay failed a bit because of the lack of structure and whatever in which he was playing. I can say Di Maria failed because of that. I can say Alexis Sanchez failed because of that. But for Anthony, it's off. It has jam. Anolin Aliguma, good evening, Web. Good evening, Anolin. How are you doing, brother? I believe Anthony doesn't know what to do at what time. He's more of skill moves than being direct. There's not even skill. Even the skill is not there. He's blocked. His head and legs have just they are frozen. He freezes with the ball. He freezes and he fails to do even the basics. It's bad, by the way. It looks so bad on him. That's why maybe the first quick decision, because he's young, is always not good to write off a young player. We've seen what has happened with the De Bruyne's, with the Mohamed Salah's. Because he's young, we can loan him. We can loan him out back to Ajax, perhaps, maybe not even back to Ajax, because maybe they would diss him. His fellow players would diss him and tell him, you know what, it wouldn't be. But loan him out and see if he can open up again. Then we work on the structure. When the structure is better and the atmosphere is different, maybe we can bring him for one season and see if he will give us anything. But Antony is a little like, perhaps I feel like he's even worse than Nicolas Pepe at Arsenal, honestly. Antony's failure is worse than Nicolas Pepe's failure at Arsenal, because Nicolas Pepe had moments of good runs that you thought looked a bit promising. But with Antony, but also Antony's style of play usually is not good for big teams in the Premier League. That style of trying to do flair and what. Otherwise, Jejo Okocha wouldn't have played for Bolton Wanderers all his career in the Premier League. Man U, what? All the big teams would have been fighting for his signature. That style in the Premier League is direct. So you need to. So that's why players like Marcus Rashford, who are not exactly skill and flair, will flourish more in the Premier League than Atal Benafa, who has a lot of flair. That's why what's his name? Sterling will play at all the big clubs in England, because Sterling doesn't have a lot of much exciting skill. He has pace and directness. Players like I think Riyad Mahrez tried to balance the skill and the directness. He had skill and flair, but he was direct to his skill and had extras that were good. So players like Antony will always struggle in the Premier League. Maybe it's not his league, but also at a big club like Man United, and at the time he came, it was always going to be difficult. For me, with Antony, unfortunately, he can leave. Yeah, maybe at Dortmund, maybe at Borussia Dortmund, maybe, maybe he can try out Borussia Dortmund. He can resurrect his career. But the same Dortmund, our Jadon Sancho had 1 or 2 good games, and now things are heading south for him. He's always on Instagram and whatever, these social media platforms, posting stuff. By the way, social media is also killing players lately. This generation is so difficult to perform in, isn't it? Extremely difficult for any footballer to perform in. Very difficult. It takes a special player to be able to perform in this generation. I wonder what is going to be, what our future generation will be. I'm hoping, I want my boy to play football. I'm hoping he can, but I'm hoping he wants to. I'm hoping he does. Seems to be interested. I'm hoping he is. Antony can thrive in La Liga, Bundesliga. There, yes, maybe there he can thrive. But the Premier League, even if you have flair, you need to have directness and pace. Beat your man in the shortest possible time. That's business of doesn't work in the Premier League. Namuteli Rita, you said Championship is better. Maybe it should be loaned. You see, Championship is a better league to improve players who are good. But I mean, the style of football in the Championship is still the same in England. The Championship is perhaps even more physical and intense than even the English Premier League. The Premier League becomes, yes, it's a high intensity, but highly technical and tactical. It's highly technical up there in the English Premier League. The Championship is less technical, but very physical, extremely physical. The Championship is extremely physical, but English football generally is direct and physical. So they come at you with pace and energy. Now at the topmost level of the Premier League, they add tactics to that. It's to the book. Now you need to be fast, energetic, and smart to perform in the English Premier League. Fast, energetic, and smart. Those are the 3 most important things. The skill can come as a bonus, the flair and all. But you must be fast, energetic, and IQ to shine in the English Premier League. So the Championship still, for me, might not open him up, because I think he needs a space that will open up his style. He's Brazilian, you know. He needs a league that is going to open his feet up. His feet are locked. Feet and brain. His feet and his brain are under lockdown. They are still in lockdown. They need to open up and free up, and we see a bit of flair and smoothness to him. Maybe he can then think about returning and restarting. Webb, I think that's why Neymar, Ronaldinho couldn't play in the Premier League, e.g. Robinho at City. Exactly. Ronaldinho told, when they were playing with Jeje Okocha at PSG, Okocha was wanted by clubs in other countries, Spain, what, but you know how African players, the dream is to play in the Premier League. Okocha decided to go to the Premier League, to Bolton. Up to today, Ronaldinho, by the way, Ronaldinho's role model was Jeje Okocha, but he said the biggest mistake, even Jeje Okocha later admitted that the biggest mistake he made in his life was to leave PSG to go to Bolton, to the Premier League. Was going to the Premier League because the Premier League does not really does not accommodate players like that. Players like that, it's so difficult to shine in the Premier League if you play like that. There are different players who shine in the Premier League. You see, even Eden Hazard, with all his skill and flair, he has a certain directness to his. You have to be progressive. You see, I actually think Ronaldinho perhaps had what it took to perform and excel in the Premier League, but maybe because he knew that, because his flair was there, but it was direct, because he would dodge you. Ronaldinho would dodge you going at goal. He would come at you with a lot of energy. He was so strong, he would never fall. He would come at you and dodge and dribble while coming at you, and somehow would go through forests of legs. He was special. He's my goat, by the way. Ronaldinho is the greatest footballer I've seen personally, the best I've seen, because that's how I love football. But I agree with you when you say Ronaldinho. He told Jeje Okocha himself that, you see, you're making a mistake to go to the Premier League. If Okocha had gone to Spain, he would be as much a legend as Ronaldinho was at Barcelona. But the Premier League is direct. That's what it means by direct league. It's direct. There is no time to. There is no space. No manager. It's direct and tactical. That's why it's more based on managers. There is no manager who is going to enjoy a player who is going to get the ball and want to dodge and beat 10 people. Most at the big clubs like the Premier League. No, it's not for drama and all that. You saw what Anthony did. Man U fans, the moment Anthony leaves Man U, you will hear what they will do. You saw what he did with the ball. We were leading. I think we were 3-1 up. I forget the team we were playing. It was even, I think, not even a Premier League game. I think it was a Carabao Cup game or League Cup game or whatever. And Anthony does his 360 thing. Man U supporters, English football was a shame. They felt so angry and pissed. The English football is it's direct. That's why, for me, I thought Ben Hafa was one of the most skillful players I saw in the Premier League. But you saw how he struggled with Newcastle, even at Newcastle. That style does not work. You must have a balance of flair and directness. You see the way Dimitri Payet was. He had skill and flair, but he had a certain directness to it, and energy and pace, just like Eden Hazard. That's why Eden Hazard to many is looked at one of, if not the best English footballer in the Premier League, because he was different. He had a lot of skill and flair, but so much directness. He would come and beat off people while going to goal, and he would score. Anolina Liguma, I think that's okay. Yeah, yes, for Neymar can't play in the Premier League. They would break his legs in 2 days. Anolin, Anthony spin, yes, the Anthony spin, the 360 spin. That one. If Anthony left the day he leaves United, that's going to be the most trending meme globally. They are waiting for him for that day to come. They have the memes waiting. There is the spin, and then there is that thing he does with his left foot. Gets the ball from down, then he keeps, then he freezes. So then the defender is standing and looking at him like, it's so funny. It looks like this cannot be 85 million football, 85 million pounds football. Can't be. So honestly, let's be honest. Let's wish well for Anthony. Let's wish for him to leave, start life elsewhere. Hope things go well for him. But the Premier League, he has made his money anyway. Even if he chose to retire today and he lost the passion for football, he has made enough money for him, his family, his clan, and everyone to be rich. If I were Anthony, if it were me, I would leave now and go to Saudi and make money. Yes, Webb, Giggs, and Ronaldo had flair and directness. Exactly. They had flair and directness and pace. Flair, directness. Mohamed Salah has flair and directness. Look at all the players who excel past who exceed past others in the Premier League. They have flair and directness. The key thing is directness. Look at Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne can have all this flair and that, but he's so direct. His directness is not running at you. He's passing. He play one pass like this, but he can be able to dodge 10 people. He can. But he knows that in the Premier League, that's not what you do. You have to be effective and direct. You want to go to the goal in the shortest possible time. Which other players? I can go on and on and on with the players who have excelled. You look at the profile of all players who have excelled the best players in the Premier League. There is no Anthony style of player. There is no Jeje Okocha style. Okocha, you cannot say Okocha excelled in the Premier League. What did he win? Why was he at Bolton for all the years? Captain, even when he was dodging and we were all enjoying. He was playing for the gallery, but not club. Man U comes for Jeje Okocha. There is no way. The Premier League, that football did not work. Yes, for Giggs, Ronaldo, flair, but direct. Very important. Even Messi, I think, would shine in the Premier League because he's direct. He cuts it, but he's going to goal. Beats up people, going to goal, and he's strong. He doesn't just fall off. He's strong. He's not a crybaby. Directness is key. Anthony doesn't have it. Now, that's the reason why I think this Amad Diallo can exceed extremely well in the Premier League. You see Mason Greenwood when he was there. He was even young, but he was direct and he was excelling at a young age. This Amad Diallo, have you seen his directness, guys? Have you seen Amad Diallo's skill and directness? Amad Diallo is a proper Premier League success. He has got everything. I feel like Amad Diallo can evolve, can turn out to be like Mohamed Salah in a few years. Amad Diallo has the potential to be like Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, those guys in a few years as he develops as a player. Because he beats off his man in a very fast way, but in the shortest possible time. So he has the skill, unpredictability of the skillful person, but directness. If he can just have more energy, and I think Amad Diallo is destined to be a big star in the Premier League. Anthony Costas, the equalizer against Wolves, he was non-direct and quick to pass. Yeah, keeps doing this. That's why I tell people, for me, if I'm a coach, a smart manager would turn Anthony into a left back. Anthony should be our third choice left back. You see, we don't have Luke Shaw and Tyrell Malaysia. Anthony should be the person starting in left back. He can, because he has got the work rate. We cannot fault him for not trying to work hard and whatever. He runs he has the work rate, the effort. Because he's young, he has the physicality. I think he should be molded into a defender. Yes, that's what I think. A good manager should mold Anthony into a defender. He has nothing going for it because he can't beat off a man. Defenders don't have to beat off their men. Just do the basics. Be strong. He's strong a bit. I think he's a bit strong and firm on the ground. And he'll be able to work hard. Teach him to tackle and how defenders think. He could be one of the best left backs by that. That's what I think. But this Amad Diallo, guys, Amad Diallo, that boy has got everything to be a superstar in the English Premier League. You see how he bossed the championship at Sunderland? You see how he did that? But also the fact that he was made in Italy, where it's also a physical league, maybe not as spacey and direct as the EPL, but there's physicality to it, and he would beat them and score goals. So goes to the championship, he scores those many goals in the championship. That is war down there at Sunderland. That was war. I would be so sad if Amad Diallo was loaned to Spain, because if Diallo went to Spain now, Diallo would be one of the best young players in the world. If Diallo went to Spain, where Facundo Pellistri is, That's why I feel bad when our players are loaned to Spain. They don't develop from Spain. If you want to loan players, let's loan them in the championship in England. Let's keep them in England, especially players we feel have got the potential to be in the senior team. We shouldn't be taking them to Germany, to Spain. What they should be in the championship because that's the closest to the physicality of the English Premier League. That's what they need. But in Spain, I saw this boy bossing Granada, like he was born bossing Barcelona at Granada, Pelistri. I mean, those leagues are. Look at Greenwood, how he came back, and whereas Greenwood is exceptional, I honestly don't think if Greenwood had returned and gone to the championship, I don't think he would really have it as easy as he does. And you all know my feelings about him. He's exceptional. He's a beautiful player. He's extremely. But you see, you don't. It's not just about talent. It's a bit of the physical demands. The level is too intense and physical. If Greenwood was in the championship, he would be stretched. Maybe if the technical guys felt he was not ready in the summer, instead of keeping him on loan in Spain, let them bring him on loan in the Premier League or in the Championship to try and give him maybe for 6 months to just have 6 months in England, in the intensity of England. Then we bring him back to Man United, tie him to a long contract if we want to keep him, that is. So, Webb, what's the style of play do you think Dan Ashworth would like Erik Ten Hag to play? Not Ten Hag, Man United. It's not now Ten Hag. Man United. Dan Ashworth, you see how England plays. I don't think the way England plays is so far from how Brighton plays or so far from how Newcastle plays. I think the football that Sir Jim wants is the football that England plays. The England of Gareth Southgate and how you saw them play in the Euros, in the World Cup, that style. It's a cosmopolitan style, a mixture of all these. So there's a bit of Man City, finesse and panache in it. There is a bit of the physicality of the South Americas. There is the technical bit of the Germans. There is a quick in transition of the French. That's the way the England DNA was made. It's a cosmopolitan approach. So I was telling you how Dan Ashworth came up with the England DNA and how they had to study the best 9 football teams in the world. Of course, there was no African team in there, as you would expect. But that's Germany, and each country is known for something. German guys are timekeepers. They are very tactical, and everything is based on time. That's the DNA of German people. So the French are good with their transition. Patient, they know when to step it up. Those are transitions. The England guys are passionate. England, they play with, it's more of passion than there is nothing really they had. That's the original indigenous England. Then of course Spain, we know they are tic-tac and the action of all. So you would see that England was not easy to score against. They were disciplined, like the Germans, good with their transitions. They were a bit physical when they had to be. So that is Dan Ashworth. So the whole product then produces a style that you would not define and say this is a Spanish. So it is really a concoction of all. And I think that's a bit of how Newcastle plays, I think. I think it's also a little bit of Brighton. If you look at Brighton, the way they play, I think it's a little bit of that. So that's Dan Ashworth. So you really picture England. I think the best example is the England national team because they have got an identity lately with Gareth Southgate. That identity was crafted by Dan Ashworth with the England DNA in 2014 when he was director of the elite football development with the FA. Even Diego Simeone, but Anolin, you see the way Diego Simeone, plays. I feel like Diego Simeone would be such a successful manager in the Premier League. Because he has got the personality, the character, and his teams will play well. They are direct, they have high intensity, they are physical, that balance, proper, football. That Diego Simeone style. is good because Atletico Madrid will pass. They pass the ball. They're a beauty to watch. You enjoy watching Atletico Madrid, but they are physical. But they are not a Barcelona, a Pep Guardiola Barcelona. I actually think that Diego Simeone football is better football today than the Pep Guardiola. Whereas the Pep Guardiola football is good and we enjoyed it so much, especially at Barcelona, the tic-taca. I think, as if I feel lucky, it gets boring. I think when you overpass the ball, but you see why Pep Guardiola is such a great manager. I think when he got to the Premier League, he was able to adjust his football a bit to be, because the way Man City pass is not the way Barcelona used to. Barcelona would pass until the dogs came home. They would pass and pass and pass, and somehow you just enjoy it. Ta pa ta 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 pa 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 sha pa pa sha pa hey 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 pa pa goal. Man City pass, but first of all the passes are longer. Barcelona would play short passes. Short passes. Ta 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 pa sha ta pa. Positional movement. Man City's passes, I think, are a bit longer. That's directness, because then it means you take less passes or movements to get to the goal. With Barcelona, they will take a little more. Pa 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 pa. Iniesta, Xavi, Sergio Busquets, Messi. With Man City, they are still passing, but now the ball, the spaces between the players are longer. That's directness. So he got that balance. But remember, the first season he tried to do the same thing and it wasn't working. He adjusted it, increased the distances, because you need directness. But also his team can now play a bit of long passes. There are more long passes in Pep Guardiola's football than they were, I think, at Bayern and Barcelona, because he knew that the Premier League requires a bit of directness. Directness is key in the Premier League. If you can't be direct in the Premier League, you cannot do anything. So Diego Simeone passes, but he's direct and with intensity and energy and pace. So Diego Simeone, I believe, whereas I think he has shares in Atletico because he's the highest paid manager in the world. It's even insane to say, and he has been for a long time. The contract he has with Atletico is insane. I don't know whether he has shares. I don't know what he did to Atletico, but they don't have plans of letting go of Diego Simeone. But with this man, Sir Jim, who knows? Namtebi, but can our present players accommodate or fit in the style, or it requires us to go? We must go to the market, without a doubt. We must. It's obvious. We cannot say. And of course, there are some players who will stay, and of course the Kobe Mainos, the Hoylands. But we must go to the market. I think that's inevitable, because we have. If you look at the squad, the current squad we have, I think more than half of the first team squad has to go. Think about the number of players who have to go. Varane, Casemiro, Maguire. At some point, maybe not exactly in the next summer, but we know that Varane, Maguire, Casemiro, Eriksen, Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford, Donny van de Beek, Jadon Sancho. Remind me, some can put Scott McTominay there, Anthony. Already, those are 10. Already, those are 10. So this current squad, whether it's a new style or not, they must go. The biggest number of, if I'm to count the number of players who clearly will stay at Man United, there is Evans. You can debate about Wan-Bissaka, Luke Shaw. You can still debate about Tyrell Malaysia. So the current squad, we have no squad literally. We have pretenders. Lindelof again. Really, these players, this squad of ours, Casemiro. By the way, do we have players in this team? We have players in this team. I think if we think about how many players really will be at United by the summer of 2025, really, you can only think of Kobe Mainoo, Garnacho, Lisandro Martinez, yes, Hoyland. Those are 5. Maybe the goalkeeper could be. Maybe if he improves and keeps consistent. Onana, maybe. Those are 5. Diogo Dalot. Those are 6. Who else? Who else? I'm struggling. I'm scratching my head for the 7th. Help me. You realize that we don't have a help me. I'm at 6. I'm stuck at 6. But with those who are leaving, I had like 20. Guys, let me make the 7th one. Let me leave. Guys, I'm done. Thank you so much, guys. It's 1 hour. You see, you're also saying 6 players. So you have no squad if you think about it. So inevitably, Sir Jim will have to overhaul this squad. There is no doubt about that. Cheers, guys. See you tomorrow. Even Bruno. Hey, you mentioned Bruno, but okay, Bruno. There are debates about Bruno, by the way. Bruno is a sellable. Bruno could be sold. Bruno could be sold. It's possible. He can stay. Okay, let's add him 7, our captain. But he could be sold. Very possible. Bye-bye.